Let's see. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to a podcast with a question mark, because that's what I'm gonna call it now since I've rebranded it. Today I'm here with Matt Lee or Matt L. Anderson, the owner of Key 13 Films. We are here talking about. Well, we're gonna talk about everything, but Sexy Sorority Sisters of Death is what we're mainly talking about since that was the account that followed me on Instagram, and I immediately was like, "Oh, this is interesting. A film Instagram is following me. Let me look more into this." And started seeing some announcements they were making on casting, and it looks pretty cool. But I guess my first question is technically is how are you doing on this fine Sunday night?
I am doing well. Thank you for having me on. I am unfortunately a little warm because the upstairs where my office slash company studio slash room is, the AC is just not quite kicking it up. Of course, I try to keep it low or high so that I don't run up my electric bill because it's already gone up $200 since the normal. But unfortunately, I think I'm going to have to give in and crank up the AC to get this room somewhat comfortable. But other than that, I am doing fantastic. It's been a very busy weekend, and all my weekends are busy. Just taking care of movie stuff, especially Sexy Sorority Sisters of Death, and a few other things. So,
Yeah. So I have to ask about Sexy Sorority Sisters of Death. You have a great cast, by the way, that has been being announced every day for the most part. You at least announce one or two a day for at least the past week and a half to 2 weeks. You've been doing that. You've been doing a really good job with the cast announcements. And you got to really. It looks like everybody looks like they're very excited to do it. That's really great because I know sometimes it's not always the easiest thing to find actors and stuff. But this is listed as a sexy, campy horror film. So, this isn't gonna be kind. Is it? But is it slightly like obviously inspired by witchcraft or anything? Was it like anything like The Craft? Should like expect anything like The Craft a little bit?
there's definitely some craft DNA, some practical magic DNA, Jennifer's Body, um, and then some of the Satanic Panic movies in the '70s and '80s,
Okay.
like Race with the Devil, um, Equinox, Spectre, not the James Bond movie, obviously. Uh, um,
That'd be a weird turn of events.
Yeah, that would be very weird. I mean, I haven't seen a spy horror film. Maybe I'll write one now. But anyways, and then it's pulls from three different genres. The satanic films of the '70s, the '80s slasher, bloody, messy stuff, um, with the rampant sexuality and nudity, and then the feminist wave of the '90s when the final girls stopped spending most of their time shrieking and started kicking ass, like Sidney Prescott
Oh hell
and
yeah.
so many others. And then there's some other influence from Japanese horror cinema, like this movie Eiko Eiko Azarak, um, and more modernist fare like Practical Magic from the '90s, The Craft, Jennifer's Body, as I mentioned earlier. We're really it's going to be a lot. It's going to be a fun movie, and you know, like with the Naked Gun films, we're going to play it straight. The comedy and the humor and the campiness comes from the fact that it takes place in modern day, and everybody looks like they're dressed out of something from a 1970s movie like Gas Pump Girls. It's bloody like Hostel. There'll even be a couple of one scene where it will be fairly reminiscent from Hostel 2. Um, so we're putting the camp, we're putting the gore. Yep, there's going to be sex and nudity. Um, it's just going to have pretty much a smorgasbord of fun, excitement, titillation, violence, gore, everything you could possibly want in a horror film. And I know that a lot of other horror filmmakers will say the same things that I'm saying. But I really think that we have something here that is really going to hopefully turn the horror film world on its ears. A lot of the horror films now are coming to be more moody, dark pieces like Long Legs and things like that. I
Yeah.
want to kind of get back to some of the more fun when horror was more fun
So
and
like
sexy.
something like campy that you would find like on Tubi or like anything that Vinegar Syndrome picks up from like the depths of hell.
Yes, exactly. We want people to sit there, and I mean, some people are going to sit there and they're going to be dismissive because of its exploitative value. But everybody who's involved has been made fully aware of what
Yeah.
the plan is, and so, as you said, everybody is really excited to be a part of it. And anybody who had an issue, they respectfully said, "I'm sorry, I'm just can't be involved in this." And I'm like, "Hey, no problem. I
Yeah.
appreciate you being open and honest with me about that. I'd rather you say no and we work on something else that's more that more fits your personal views than work on something just because you're hoping to maybe get a paycheck or something and not be happy and feel uncomfortable, because I don't want anybody to ever feel uncomfortable working on one of my films, and that's one of our big things.
Yeah.
We were one of the first really independent in the DMV to bring on an intimacy coordinator. And that's kind of a point of pride for me,
Yeah.
because I recognize that there is, you know, you got to be safe, and you've got to
Yeah.
make sure that your cast and crew are not put in situations that's going to make them feel uncomfortable, make them feel unsafe, or violate any of their personal views. I'm just not about that.
Right. And that is something that I never had. Well, had one intimacy coordinator on a feature I worked on last year. Went to New Jersey to film it. But we had an intimacy coordinator who's actually our main actress on the film, who actually doubled as our intimacy coordinator. But she also knew everybody that was cast. Like that's how we got everybody. But yeah, she also acted as our intimacy coordinator, which was really really crazy. I did not expect that, but it was so great. It was so fun. But I'm looking at your. I really because honestly, I have to ask about the movie because you got a lot of good. You actually got some people I know, like not know personally, but not know by name. Like you got Mel Heflin, who I've seen in a few things. She's in a cameo for a movie called Blood and Breakfast. I don't know if you've seen that.
Yeah. Oh, that's a Mark Burns film. I have been friends with Mark Burns since Bigfoot, and
Okay.
I have I have made it to every premiere that he's had since Bigfoot. So, Bigfoot, Remnants, Brazen Impact, One of What, and of course Blood and Breakfast, which I knew quite a few people in that one and worked with quite a few of them as well.
How I found out about Blood and Breakfast, I before I rebranded this podcast, I had Matt Burns on here and we talked about it.
Yeah, no, Matt Burns. Yeah, and as a matter of fact, it was the funny. If you want to talk about how small this world is, I met Matt Burns and Mel Heflin on the same film, which was my very first film that I
Oh,
ever worked on. So I kind of wound up falling into that crowd, and and then through Mel and through Matt, I met Mark, and then I met all the people that he's worked with, and it just snowballed from there. And I've worked with quite a few people that have been in a lot of different things. So I,
it's so crazy how small this world. You think, oh shit, big world. Nope, it's not that big.
no, no, it is. It's very. I always like to say it's very incestuous, because it is so. we so much overlap in so many projects. I have been kind of moving away from that a little bit, just because there are so many great actors out there
Yeah.
that I've seen in other things or that have killed it in auditions for multiple projects. And so I'm like, let's work with these folks. And one of the people that I absolutely have been loving working with is Jordan Hundley, who was in Blood and Breakfast. She had a little bit in Blood and Breakfast. She's been in three of my films at this point. Um, and she has just started to blow up. She started getting cast in a lot of different things. So, it's one when somebody. It's always good to bring in new people into it because there's plenty of work to go around, and you will discover some of these really amazing people. And Jordan has got so many movie credits to her name. After we're done, I will reach out to her and tell her to, see about reaching out to you. And she's a great interview, just
Yeah.
really great person to work with and talk to.
Currently right now, the biggest one that me and Mel have gone back and forth because she's gonna come on here at some point too. So that's really cool. A small world, man. Every time.
Very, very.
But now we talked a little bit about how you got this ball rolling, what the what this movie's going to be like. Now I want to ask questions about you personally. Like, how did you get involved in horror movie making, or was it always something you wanted to do with horror movies, or do you just want to be like, no, like if I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, how'd you get started doing films? I guess I don't know if you necessarily wanted to do horror completely, but like, what got you started doing film?
Well, actually, well, it's kind of I've told the story before, but never get tired of telling it. Uh, so I primarily was in the area more known as a photographer, and because of the photography work, I started interacting with models who had other projects. Some of them act, and there's one. Her name is she goes by Nikki, but at the time she was going by the name Rose Genevieve, and she had a show called Behind the Set, where she would go and interview creative folks, wrestlers, movie makers, stage directors, that sort of thing. And she did an interview with me on her second season and then asked me to come along originally to help her with the camera, but because the rules of the the channel said that I had to be trained through them, which I didn't have the time to do that. I became more of a technical advisor.
Okay.
Um, and we went to a movie set, the one with Mel and Matt, and they needed a cameraman, and I volunteered and um, did that film. Then did another film with some of the same people that were involved, and then I met a guy who, started talking, and met another guy, and we all decided to create Key 13 Films, and we decided to, break off on our own, and we started off by doing a bunch of short films. Unfortunately, COVID came along,
Uh,
so
Killed a
that
lot of things. It killed my web series that was fully cast and everything.
that was terrible. That's terrible. That is
Yeah.
absolutely terrible. So we wound up, trying to do stuff, but with COVID and all that, and then because of COVID, unfortunately, the two people that helped me found the company, they had to go on and deal with other things because the COVID really changed a lot of
Yeah.
things in their lives. Um, and we decided that, the first couple things we did were horror shorts, but we decided that we were going to take a different path. We didn't want to just do straight horror like everybody else did. And I'm not knocking that choice. That's a great choice, and there's a lot of great horror films out there. but we decided that we wanted to try our hand at something different. So our first film was Serious Profession, which was a crime drama, and then we did Anna Key, which is a drama about a woman who basically lives a very chaotic life, and she meets a guy who used to be very chaotic, but now he's very calm, and how she kind of learns and grows to be stay who she is, but become a better person. And so we did those two, and we still had our horror movies that we wanted to do. And then we decided, well, then I decided, we did started a movie called Heavy Duty Man, and that was more of a grindhouse exploitation, toxic Avenger kind of film. And then I decided that I wanted to kind of move into horror a little bit, so that's when These Things, our Killer Koosh Balls from Outer Space movie, was created, and
Wait,
then from
what is it
there,
called? Killer Kush Balls.
Killer Koosh Balls from Outer Space. We have to call them Whoosh Balls, obviously, for copyright reasons.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we did that sci-fi comedy, and then I decided to do Following, which is an LGBTQ drama, and Quattro, which is a sci-fi horror, not a campy one or a funny one like These Things. This one's done a lot more serious, and then decided Sexy Sorority Sisters of Death. It actually had started off as a joke, which I'll go into in depth later, if you care to want to learn about that. But decided that after I did Following, which I love good dramas, but Sexy Sorority Sisters of Death was just one of those films. I had to do it. It was speaking to me, and so I decided, all right, this is my next one, and I'm going for it. We're either going to get all the money we need to make it, or we're not doing it. I'm not kind of skimping or compromising on a project because I don't have enough money or have to worry about running out. Either I'm going to get all the money I need to get it done, or I'm not going to do it. So it just kind of was just an organic thing where I did photography, worked with models, got on a show, then got on my first movie set, then did another movie, then just kept going and going, and here I am.
All right. Now you talked about Following. Is that out now or is that not out?
No, we just finished filming along with Quattro. We filmed both practically at the same time. Never doing that again. That was crazy.
Oh, I'm at. Yeah, that's not fun. I will let you know. Filming two things, because especially if it's on the same SD card, I ran into that. That's always a fun story to tell. I'll tell you that story sometime. But yeah, so I guess yeah. So you got a pretty good yeah. The COVID ruined a lot of things. My web series, we casted everybody in February. We planned the shoot. Oh my goodness. March 13th was Friday the 13th. We had our first shoot date, March 14th. The world locked down 2 days later, and I said, well, that was fun.
Yep. Yep.
And I eventually canned the series because I'm like, I'm not, I don't know, because we all didn't know what was going to happen. None of us, and by the time we even figured out that we could film it, some of the actors had moved on to other projects. One had unfortunately passed away. Not because of COVID. It was just they already had like other things going on. They just didn't do. It just did not do well for them. And I'm not going to get into that. That was just a very traumatic story to hear. But now let's move on to some fun stuff. I'm sorry. That was
No,
completely.
no. It's perfectly fine. Actually, on Serious Profession, we had one of our actors pass away right after we finished filming.
Oh.
So that was, and we were just in discussion for him to do the third movie in my Hoodie trilogy, and which were two short films, Hoodie and Paralyzed, which we were going to then do the third segment and make it into one movie. Well, with him gone, I have to completely redo the story, and it just wasn't going to quite work without him. So, believe me, I've been there myself, but you know, um, it happens unfortunately, and I've had projects where people have had to move on and things like that, and
Yeah.
it's
Well,
part of the filmmaking world.
yeah. Well, I told people because also I've told people, hey, move on, do things because I don't know when we're gonna get to film this, and of course, some people end up not wanting to come, and they're like, "Oh, I'll come back." They never did, but it's fine. I never held that against them because honestly, I didn't want to put the money in to do it after a while. I'm like, this is gonna cost me more money than I thought. I don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And
So
sometimes you gotta like, okay, well,
yeah,
we tried and we had to move on. So let's talk about some fun stuff.
yeah. So I guess technically, with this, let's talk about. Oh man, I'm okay. I want to go. So with okay, I'm gonna go over here a little bit and talk about like I want to talk about burning the cell. I want to talk about your store real quick for all these films. That, well, for the two you have on physical media for those that want physical media. There's a Blu-ray and a DVD of Anarchy and Serious Profession. What's it like doing like what made you decide? Oh, let's put these out on physical disc. Like, what was the drawing factor when you could just upload it to streaming?
Well, because we had people who wanted to see it, and streaming, while it is the more popular and certainly more viable option in many respects, it was it was going to take us a while, and we were originally the DVDs were created and the Blu-rays were created so that backers could get their copies,
Right.
and then decided, okay, well,
Let's
pardon me,
let's print extras.
yeah. So a bunch of people wanted, really liked it, so a bunch of people got it. It's there are a lot of people out there, and there's the big debate between physical media and digital storage, and streaming and all that. And I certainly kind of, excuse me, kind of fall on in some ways. I love physical media. I love holding a DVD or a Blu-ray in my hands,
Me
putting
too.
in a DVD player. But I also like the convenience of just being able to go on the Amazon or go on to Netflix or whatever,
Yeah.
Tubi especially, pull up the film and watch it there pretty much wherever I want at home, during my lunch break, in my car, um, wherever, whenever. And so, I, I, I'm never going to turn down a potential source of revenue. Uh,
Right. Yeah. 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 For sure.
uh, so, and of course, every DVD and Blu-ray that we sell helps fund my next film. I mean, the profit margins aren't high. I
Right.
like,
I can imagine. It's probably the same with band T-shirt sales. I can tell you from firsthand experience. We sell a shirt at $25. We only make $12 from that T-shirt sale.
oh yeah, yeah. It's it's always about risk or cost versus reward, and unfortunately, it's not. Streaming has become viable in some ways because you don't have to spend any money, and I mean, there are pros and cons about all of it,
Oh yeah, for
but
sure.
for I offer the films because they're not available on streaming right now. It's the only way to watch these, except for if you buy, you spend the $5 to watch it through the
Kunaki.
website. So or that and some people who like were some of the backers, they got a digital copy that they could download and watch on any device that they wanted to. So I'm just I wanted to make sure that those movies got out, that people had an opportunity to get it, and we're going to do the same thing with all our films. They're all going to be available on physical media, and there's just something about holding a disc in your hand
Yeah.
or a case in your hand that just feels natural, from
Yeah.
especially for me. I'm a VA. I started off in the days of VHS,
Yeah.
and the
Me too.
thrill that I got of picking up a VHS tape or even a Betamax was just,
That's way before me. I unfortunately never got to touch a Betamax tape until I was at a Goodwill or a pawn shop somewhere in Pennsylvania. They had like a section. I was like, "What's this small VHS tape?" I didn't know what it was. I thought it was cool.
oh yeah. Well, and it really was true. Betamax was the better quality device, but
Yeah.
it was more expensive, and especially when things were very expensive, relatively.
Yeah.
Uh, you know,
I,
$150 now for a just recorder. Hell, you can get them for like $68 now. Um, back then they were $300-400, and
I,
even to $300 and $400 ain't cheap. And back then it was really expensive. So that was
yeah.
like grand, almost a grand for it. So,
Yeah,
um,
my friend's dad grew up when VHS tapes first came out, and they were like $50.
oh yeah. In
And I'm
Japan,
like, whew, I can't imagine paying $50 for not a collector's edition like from Shout Factory or something like that.
yeah, in Japan they were very expensive too. I mean, for the Japanese, maybe not so, but when the yen rate was 86 yen to the dollar, so if I gave them $1, they gave me 86 cents. You know,
Yeah,
a, a 2,500 yen videotape, which if it's one for one, that's $25, which is still pretty expensive, was even more expensive. So, fortunately, I had memberships at a lot of Japanese video rental shops, which of course sold their VHS tapes for like 480 yen, which about basically about $5.
yeah,
So yeah, so I'm a VHS guy, and I like so many people. I love physical media. I don't buy much VHS because it's just very cumbersome. Um, and admittedly, I'll buy a lot. I bought a lot of DVDs. I have a whole stack of DVDs that I bought from conventions that I still haven't gotten to yet. But there is something satisfying about buying it at a convention, putting it in your bag, and then pulling it out and going, "Oh, this looks cool." So
yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, everything that I will always remember going to bet like Hollywood Video or anything like that, picking up like just something to rent was always a chat was always nice.
yeah, yeah, Blockbuster and
Oh,
all those places.
I
Yeah.
I eventually plan to get to Bend, Oregon to see the last Blockbuster. I really would love to one day. That's a goal.
Yeah, I was actually in Oregon earlier this year. Unfortunately, I did not make it there, but yeah, that would be very cool. I
Yeah.
love the smell of a blockbuster, the smell of videotape and those cart
Yeah.
the cases. It's just there's something about it, like going into a Suncoast or a Hollywood Video or whatever. There's just something
Oh,
about the smell that just brings that wave of nostalgia.
you brought up Suncoast. There's none anymore. They closed them all. There was one. I remember there was only two left in the United States. After to my knowledge, it was like Jersey, and there was one in Maryland, and then they shut that one down in 2018. I always remember I walked in, and as soon as I saw it said 90% off, I knew it was their last day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm sorry, we went all way. That's the thing about my podcast. I do go off the rail because if I hear something, it's like, oh, I want to ask more about that.
Hey, no problem.
So, um, getting started working on films and stuff, we talked about that history of a little bit. What is? I guess my next question would be, what is the biggest, like, obviously, sexy sorority sisters of death is your is probably the biggest project. I guess you're about to launch the Indiegogo, and I'm actually gonna take this question from my friend Courtney because she brought this up. She wanted to know, but like she wanted to know this question because I guess she saw the Indiegogo project. She was like, "What was the when creating the page for Sex Sisters of Sorority? Did you compare and contrast Indiegogo versus Kickstarter or versus any of the other crowdfunding campaign, or was Indiegogo always your main choice?"
No, I look at both. I looked at Kickstarter. I just find that Kickstarter is a bit more restrictive in the way that you have to manage your campaigns. And for me, I'm not exactly the most social media savvy 50 plus person you'll ever meet. So, I'm kind of in that place where I go with the known. I've funded everything else through Indiegogo. Our last one actually did very well, which is now in demand. So, plus with Indiegogo, you have the option of doing, either getting the money that you get or all or nothing. That is one thing I did like about Kickstarter. It's an all or nothing, but I also knew some people who had some issues. So, there's that, and there's Seed and Spark and a few others. But I'm at the point where, okay, I've got so much going on. I don't have time to relearn a whole new process. So I went with Indiegogo just because it was a known factor. The devil you know versus the devil you don't. And that,
Yeah.
that was the main driving force behind it. I've gotten better at Indiegogo over the years. I've learned a lot. I've made a lot of mistakes through that, and through that, that's how I learned. So, yeah, it was just the better known, the better something easy, so that it's one less thing I have to worry about while trying to do all the other things that I'm trying to do in regards to Sexy Sorority Sisters of Death, and of course post production on Quattro and following and these things.
Right. So I want to get more film based now. If that's cool.
Oh, absolutely.
So I'm gonna open all these tabs, and my computer's gonna hate me, but I don't care. um, so I want to talk about serious profession a little bit. I want to know, like, because this is a feature, man. This is a long one. It's 115 minutes. And I don't know. I'm just looking at like a trailer and a clip. I see a guy in a suit. Was Reservoir Dogs an inspiration to this movie, or is that just the character called for a suit?
The character is called for a suit. There could be some Reservoir Dogs because I will admit Tarantino is one of my favorite writers because the man can write dialogue better than most people can. There's only very,
Yes.
very few. The people who wrote Justified are probably also some of the best screenwriters that you'll ever meet. They were able to keep Elmore Leonard's kind of rat-a-tat-tat style. So there was some influence in there, but the 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 idea came from a song that I heard, and when I was watching it, that's who I saw was these two guys in business suits driving down the road. And so, once I saw that, that was the image that was going to stay. And I hadn't seen Reservoir Dogs at that time. Later on, I watched Reservoir Dogs and I saw the dialogue in there. And, when I was writing Serious Profession, I had obviously seen it, Reservoir Dogs by that time. But when the original idea came, I hadn't. So, yeah, it was just, you know, uh, I I don't like, even though it's realistic to a point. Yeah, I didn't like The Sopranos. The way that they all dress in tracksuits and
Yeah.
all that. If it's organized crime, they should look professional. It's a serious profession. Uh, so, so yeah, so it was just more of just Okay, if I ran a crime organization, dang it, they're going to be in suits and ties, just like the old 1950s, like in excuse me, in Goodfellas. They're always just dressed, impeccably dressed, and that's kind of how I envision serious profession.
Yeah, like it looked so like. See, that's why I had to ask if it was like about Reservoir Dogs, and it looks really really cool. I think I might actually pick this one up. This actually looks really really neat. And I like how you don't always stick to like one genre. Me, I'm kind of tied to one because it's usually what people know me. I'm usually known for doing horror, but my next film is gonna shock people. It's actually a drama.
Nice,
Yeah,
nice.
I'm tired of writing horror. It's the same old shit. I'm tired of writing it. And I'm not saying that it's not bad. It's just I'm tired of it. I want to do something completely different. But also horror is what I know. So it's a drama, thriller, romance, all tied into one project. It's only going to be like 20 minutes.
Yeah, that sounds a lot like with following. Going back to Mark Byrne. Mark Byrne has been one of my heroes because of the fact that his movies tackle all sorts of genres. He does horror, but he that's not only what he does. He does science fiction. He's done drama. He's done crime dramas. He's done 101 is very existential in many of respects. So that's what I love about Mark Byrne, and that has been one of my guiding lights in my path of the types of films I've been making. But there's also, and unfortunately, we all have to look at this at some point. There is the commercial aspect, and Serious Profession and Anna Key, both great movies, both very well done. But you know, a lot of the people that you and I know are more into the horror. And again, I don't have a problem with horror. I love with horror, and obviously, I've made a few of those, um, but um, I don't want to just pigeonhole myself into just one genre,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, because.
and if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it fun. I'm going to do it different or make it interesting as best I can. But ultimately, it comes down what kind of stories do I want to tell? Well, I want to tell a lot of different stories, and
Yeah.
kudos to you for your next project being a drama thriller.
Yeah,
That
it's
is
actually really crazy. I'm teamed up with two other my films I met, and during my I did Film Connection. It was a film program based out in DC. We had a mentorship program, and I'm teamed up with two, and me and those two people that I really worked with the most. We reconnected through Facebook, and my drama thriller romance is gonna tie into an overarching story between
nice.
two other filmmakers, but theirs is the only thing that ties together is gonna be a prop. It's like, and I don't like to nag on this, but I hate the 40 hour. Okay, I don't want to use the word hate, but I don't like the time crunch for 48-hour film festival. I know what that's based on to make a film in 48 hours, but I hate the limitations. They say no longer than 7 minutes or you can't show it. And I get that they want to show everybody that they can, but I hate that time crunch. I hate having to write within that time frame. Because if I get a story going, I want to make the whole thing.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that one. I don't do the 48-hour film festivals.
I help out
Uh,
people from time to time to do them, but
yeah.
we always write extra. That's why we're like, here's the extended edition.
Right. Well, I appreciate anybody who does that. It's not my cup of tea, just like fan films. I don't see the purpose in doing a fan film when you can't make a dollar and a cent off of it. I
Yeah.
get, people love fan films. There's movies that people, they're again, they're known entities. And if I was ever going to do a fan film, I would do one from something like John Carpenter's Prince of Darkness,
Yeah.
or something way off the beaten path, not a Freddy or a Jason
Or a
or
Michael.
or something, or a horror film based on a horror film franchise. You know, one of the filmmakers I know, Cody Falk. You know, he kind of made his bones with Voorhees, and now he's got Crow
Oh,
Days
you
of
know
Summer.
Cody?
Yes.
Wow, small world, man. He did a crow,
um,
yeah, crow, a crow fan film not too long ago.
yeah, it's. I don't think it's out yet, but
No, I remember when we were talking because I was originally going to be a cameo. They were filming a scene, a club scene in Baltimore, but the location was hidden until you can because they were buying food and trying to get RSVPs, and I didn't want to be the dude that RSVP'd and couldn't show up last minute because they were putting money into it, and I was like, I can't commit to it if I don't. I was like, I want to be a part of it, but I can't commit to it. I'm sorry. I was so excited and like, but I'm also. This is also me and him had this like little discussion. I'm not a huge fan of the. I like the property. I like the idea of it, but I find it to be a vastly overrated film.
yeah, I mean, I'm not beholden to the cult of Brandon Lee
No,
that a
me
lot of
neither.
people have.
But I just what
Yeah.
got me, and this is gonna sound. I don't know if this says anything about my. I mean, I'm a really nice person, but I never had any interest in seeing The Crow until I found out the backstory of like there was a tragedy on set. I was like, well, now you got me intrigued. I kind of want to know what happened.
Well, it's understandable. It's just like when you see a car accident on the side of the road. You know, I wanted to watch it because I was interested in the film. I usually try to not pay attention to controversy or anything like that.
Yeah.
And you know, and actually, you know, and this would be blaspheme for a lot of people, but I actually liked the second one, City of Angels. I liked it more than the first one because I just felt
I
it
haven't
was
seen it.
had a lot more war rage in it. But you know, again, going back to the fan films, that's in 48 hours. You know, I won't. I just have no interest in doing it. I'm not saying I won't.
You
I was
just
about
person
to.
you just personally won't make it your next like you're not gonna go out of your own way to be like, I kind of want to write a 48-hour fan film or 48-hour film real quick.
Yeah, no, that's just not me. Because like you, I'm not a fan of the excuse me, the constraint that these things often put on it. So
Yeah,
I'd much rather just tell the stories I want to tell. Whether you know, hopefully they're good. I mean, everybody seems to like the stories they write, but obviously, not everybody
yeah. I worked.
what gets it. You know,
Yeah.
but you know, you
So
what you do.
yeah, if I ever made a fan film, I'd go a little bit off the wall. I'd make one based on Basket Case.
That would be interesting. Yeah, I don't think there's any of those, but
Yeah.
you know, we all have something that we would probably do outside of our boxes, and you know, I highly encourage that for anybody. But like I said, for me right now, where I'm at right now, a 48 hour or a fan film just isn't my
Right.
my
It'd be
bag.
more like you would just kind of like go help if a friend needed it. You wouldn't necessarily make one yourself, kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
I want to ask about Anna Key. I was looking at because obviously I'm on your website, so that's not playing the audio from the clips, but it's like a bunch of these like because you're I love your website how it doesn't. Let me just say whoever coded the website put the videos right. I don't know if it's you or whatever, but I'm really glad it's not this hodgepodge of audio. It's all muted YouTube clips that are on a play right now that are on loop, and I love the fact that it's not playing the audio. Not that it's bad. I'm just saying like all at one time. I'm pretty. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, well, and yes, I am the one who put it the website together.
Oh,
I'm pretty much a one man band, so if it pretty much if you see it, if it's a poster, if it's the website, if it's the Instagram, if it's the TikTok, if it's the Facebook, it's all me. I don't
okay.
have anybody else helping me out with that, which is a really a full time job in itself, and
Right.
it you know, and I have to try to tell myself, stop. You
Right.
got to work on this or that. So,
So I have a question about Anna Key. 100%. I'm looking at a clip and trailers and stuff like that. The color palette, and because this is a drama film about someone coming to terms with stuff, was Boyhood an inspiration to this? Because the color palette's giving me Boyhood vibes.
No, actually, I've never seen that movie.
Oh! Oh!
No, the color palette in that was basically. I'm a big fan of color reflecting the mood of the story, and if you look at Hoodie, um, and really, if you fast forward through through Hoodie, you will see that it gets redder and redder and redder and redder as the movie progresses,
Right.
or the short film progresses. And so with Anna Key, the color is designed. I wanted it to be warm. I wanted it to have that kind of deep richness to it, but then in the so that when we do the flashbacks, the flashbacks are in black and white. When you see her in a dark mood, the colors are darker, the blacks are blacker. So yeah, color correction was not something originally when I first started that I knew any much about, and color palettes. But as I have been on this journey, I've learned more and more. And if you even look at the clip right next to the trailer on the website, you'll notice that the colors are all washed out because, of course, we shot that was just raw footage. Basically, I just pieced together. I hadn't color corrected it at that point. So, the color was a very much always a part of the story, but I've also have learned that when you film in a certain color on set, you kind of stuck with it.
Yeah.
And that's a lesson that we learned on these things. We're kind of stuck with some of the colors that we did. And while I'm not unhappy about it, it definitely makes it tougher for me to more subtle changes for mood. So no, I mean there were obviously films. I watched tons of films, and so all films have some sort of influence on me, positive or negative. But in the case of Anarchy, it was just, I when I was seeing the story, I saw it was a very warm, very very really deep colors because this is a woman who is unapologetically who she is. But then, when she has her moments of darkness or moments of light, we adjusted to make that fit.
Okay. Yeah, it looks really, really, really good.
Uh, it's won the most awards out of any project that I've done for screenwriting as well as the film itself. So it's definitely probably our it's not our biggest film. That would be the Resident Evil documentary. But
Is next
definitely,
on the that is actually my next question about that. But continue what you're saying. I'm sorry.
no problem. But Anarchy is definitely kind of, in many ways, Anarchy was set the tone of the types of movies I want to make, which is why Following could very easily be called its cousin, the cousin of Anarchy, because there are some similar thematic elements to it.
I was just getting
But
ready to ask about that because of the LGBTQ kind of thing.
yeah, well, partially, but partially because of the fact that they deal with the issues of relationships, and that's one thing that I feel that some movies lack is that interpersonal interpersonalities and the interpersonal relationships that people have that often just kind of get overlooked for X, Y, or Z. So that was kind of one of the big things with Anarchy and with Following, and even in other films like These Things and Quattro. There is and sexy even with Sexy Sorority Sisters of Death, as campy as the title is, every character has their moment. Every character has their defining characteristic, and every character has a relationship with the other characters, some positive, some negative, but there's a reason behind what everybody does and why they behave the way that they do, and that's something that I think is kind of a hallmark of Key 13 is that we try to make, even in the most ridiculous situations, the most believable people that you'll ever encounter.
Okay. So my next question about this George A. Romero's Resident Evil, which I have never heard this story, and I'm gonna probably watch this to. I don't know if it'll be tonight, but it'll definitely be this week. I never knew that Constantine Films was gonna do the video game franchise. That was always Sony.
Well, Constantine Films, yeah, basically they had the rights to it, and then, excuse me, they teamed up with Sony. But the original idea was that George Romero, the man who basically reinvented the zombie genre or invented it because there were zombies before that, but they were usually voodoo zombies, and things like that. But he took the zombie idea and really created a whole new industry on it, which of course paved the way for Resident Evil. So it made sense that he was going to direct a live action version of the video game. But as we cover in the documentary, that didn't happen. So Brandon Salisbury, who was the creator and the director of that project, um, he wanted to tell that story about why it didn't happen. And so, that's how it came about. And the documentary does cover some of those things that people may not have known about it. Sure, the hardcore Romero fans certainly know a lot about it, but those who are like me, who love the Resident Evil games and who enjoy George's movies, but are not, necessarily into the George Romero um, catalog as like Brandon is. Brandon's very much George Romero is one of his heroes. So I that's why I really liked when he came to me with this documentary, why I wanted to support it, because I love the Resident Evil games. And I enjoyed George Romero's, and it was a story that I didn't know anything about until he told me about it, and I was like, "Wow, all that happened." So definitely, I believe it is available for free on YouTube now.
It is. It's from I don't know what channel it is, but it's on here. You if you're on the website, all those clips are playing. It says watch the full movie underneath. I might
Right.
I might actually go rent it. It's actually available for rent on Fandango at home, and I have an account, and I might watch it. Oh, it's also available. It looks like it's nope. You can buy it. You can buy it for $2 there, or you can rent it for $1. I might just buy it at that point.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
And it is free available for anyone that's listening. It is available for free if you just want to watch it for free. But if you want to support it, you can buy it for $2 on Voodoo or Fandango at home.
yeah, absolutely. But
and yeah,
yeah,
and that's another thing I gotta mention. You're even the films that are streaming, like Anarchy and Serious Profession. If they just want to buy the digital copy, it's only $5. So you've kept that pretty cheap under there. I know it's gonna obviously the Blu-ray and DVD are 14 between 15 and 20, which is still a good deal because most of that stuff now is like 25 to $30.
yeah. I mean, the movies were a couple years old now. It took a long time because again, I'm a one man shop, so I had to learn how to edit by myself without any support because I
What
couldn't afford it.
what do you
So
use? What do you use to edit? I'm interested. Do you do Premiere?
yes,
Yeah, it's the best one around.
yeah. There is some similarities with DaVinci, but the learning curve was too great, and I cut my teeth on
Oh,
Premiere Pro Elements years beforehand. So
I hate
again,
DaVinci. I won't use it.
yeah. So again,
It
it's a case of me going with the known because I have so many other things that I have to deal with, that trying to learn a whole new program, the matter, and then, what I did like about DaVinci is that it was a one-time purchase and forever upgrade.
Yeah.
I don't like the subscription model for anything. I think it is a way to take money from people who can't always afford it.
Oh, it's
Uh,
greedy, and
yeah,
that has always been in my feedback every month.
yeah,
Get away to the, and I know they're not going to, because they know people are gonna pay it, and that's what's scummy about it.
yeah, and I'm not happy with it, and it sucks, but for me, it was the lesser of two evils, and I'm fortunate enough that I was able to be able to use it. So, um, you know, I use Premiere Pro, but that's basically what I'd cut my teeth on Adobe products. So, that's what works.
Yeah. So I want to ask about this phobic. I haven't watched the Phobias show that you were doing, but it's on 2 episodes right now. You can watch 2 parts. Now, is it going to stay 2 parts, or are there more coming?
There is going to be more coming at some point. So Phobic was a casualty of COVID.
Mm.
And it was an idea that we had that we were and foolishly we decided to try to make it right after we got Serious Profession funded. That was a big mistake. We had it cast, and then COVID hit, and we didn't have the money, and so decided to try to keep it alive by doing the little shorts. Originally, it was called Phobias, but we changed it to Phobic because there's a lot of movies called Phobias, and with similar concepts. And we did the 2 episodes, and then unfortunately, again, when you're a one man band, and I worked with some really fantastic people, but I just didn't have the time with all the other things, and plus I had other short films that I wanted to do, and so decided to, so right now it's only part 1 and 2. There's definitely a part 3 that I've got ready to go, actually a part 4 as well. But it's just finding the time and getting
And
an actor to do it. So for right now, it's on the back burner.
yeah.
We got I got other priorities right now, that and
Hey,
this project's been around for 6 years now, and I'm not it's not that I don't want to do it, it's just not a priority.
right. It's also probably like not necessarily. I don't want to say it's probably the most feasible, because I don't want to assume that it was expensive to do for 2 episodes. But I imagine you'd rather get the bigger things done first, fill in later.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. So if you had to pick, let's say this, say if you were going into major film studio, you were offered, and they had the amount of money, like an enormous amount of money, but you had to make a new installment in an existing horror franchise. What series is that gonna be?
That's a very good question. Um, hmm.
And you can do whatever the hell you want with it too. You can do whatever the hell you want. You could do like if you were doing like a la a new Jason movie. You could do what they did with Part 5. It's not Jason, it's a new killer. You could do that, or you could do whatever. They give you full creative control, but you have to make it a new entry in that franchise.
If I was so lucky to do something like that, definitely would be Alien,
Okay.
the franchise. I adore that franchise. I love all the movies, because they're all so different. Not a big fan of Alien versus Predator and Alien versus Predator Requiem. Not necessarily that they were horrible. It's just they are they are my least favorite of all those films.
Oh, I
You
hated
know,
Alien.
I would do Predator too. I loved the Predator, the one
Yeah,
that Shane Black wrote. I definitely like that. But yeah, if it was an existing franchise, I would definitely go with Alien.
yeah,
Alien Romulus for me was fantastic. I absolutely
yeah.
loved it.
I,
Um, but if I were to also do if I could reboot or restart or continue a franchise, it would be Leviathan.
I don't know what that
Uh,
is.
Leviathan. It's Peter Weller. Um, it came out in, I think, was it the 90s? Yeah. It was part of a rash of underwater movie alien creature movies like The Abyss, which is really a science fiction film. War, Deep Star Six. In some ways, um, oh, Dead Rising. You know, but it's just it was. I think it was the biggest budget out of all of them, except for The Abyss. And I absolutely love that movie. If you ever get a chance, I highly encourage you to watch it. And then the other one, which is a guilty pleasure movie, is Virus with Jamie Lee Curtis.
I've seen
I
that.
I love a good body horror film, like Tetsuo the Iron Man. I've actually written a couple of body horror films, so I would do Virus. If I was going to reboot, I'd either do Leviathan, which is also a body horror movie, or I would do Virus, one of those two. But if it's an existing established franchise, it would be Halloween or probably or sorry, Alien or probably Halloween, because I love both those movies, both those franchises.
Halloween is actually what got me. Like most people, like some people, like always, a lot of people say, Halloween's what got me making movies. I saw it at age 3, and I said I want to do that. Literally, I had cousins that used to watch me. They're like 10, 11 years old, but they would not really watch me, but we would always. My mom would be at their. We would be over there, and we would watch it. And I always really loved Halloween, and that was always what got me started in the making movies. Very, very upset with Halloween 3 when I first saw it. Now I love it. I think it's one of the best in the franchise.
So do
Um,
I. So do
love
I.
love Halloween Ends. I didn't like it when it first came out, but I do now. I love it. I still do. I love Resurrection over H2O. A lot of people find that hard to believe, but I do not like H2O.
H2O was interesting. It was a little slow, and unfortunately, then it had the unfortunate follow up Resurrection with Busta Rhymes
Oh,
and
see, everyone
Tyler.
hates Resurrection. I think it's a fun movie to watch. I love it.
Oh, it's a fun movie, but it's just I kind of like that they completely ignored those and went
Yeah.
back. But all in all, I've got all the Halloween movies, including the Rob Zombie ones.
Oh, I have to have those. I'm a completionist. Even though I don't watch them, I will not watch them. I have them.
Yep, yep. And so yeah. So if I was gonna redo or do anything, it'd be Alien would be my first choice. Halloween would be my second for continuing a franchise, and then if I got to reboot, it'd either be Leviathan or Virus.
Yeah, I don't know. Speaking of Alien, I don't know if you follow that franchise much or like anything about it, but like last year when Romulus came out, because they are going to do a sequel to that apparently, but the director of Prey and then the new Predator movie that's coming out, that Predator Badlands or whatever. Then there's the director of Alien Romulus. He wants to team up and do a co-director for an actual like Alien versus Predator movie, and I'd actually watch that. I would love that. I think the first one's fun. I hate the second one so much. I hate Requiem. I don't think I hate it so much. But as a filmmaker, I also know it's hard to make a movie, and there was probably a lot of studio interference with it. But at the same time, the idea of a predator mixed alien, I like that idea. I think that's a cool concept. It just wasn't executed good.
Yeah, I mean, there's, I mean, like you mentioned, Prey. I absolutely um, loved Prey. I think it's probably, I mean, as much as I love the second Predator with Danny Glover,
Yeah,
and I do like the first one. The first one, but and the Predator, the one again, the more recent one with Shane Black.
yeah.
My son and I absolutely adore that one. But
I didn't like Predators.
yeah, actually, I like the different take on it. But yeah, um, I really liked. Uh, I would like to see that. I'm actually looking forward to the new Alien TV series.
Yeah, it comes
That
out this week.
Yeah, that's coming out. So I'll be definitely watching that. And Alien, the first Alien is one of those movies where if I'm working on something, like if I'm doing video editing or not the video editing, like working on a graphics like posters and stuff, I'll have it playing in the background, just because I know it so well. I don't have to watch it to know what's going on.
Yeah.
So it's those are, I'm a hardcore science fiction guy, and then I love good sci-fi horror, and then throw in body horror on top of that, and it's uh now you've got me peaked.
What has been if you're not, since I know you do a lot of editing and well not well I know you do a lot of editing, but when you do a lot of filmmaking and stuff, but what is something that a lot of people don't know that you do to like decompress to get away from it all? Like I can't, like I have to, like when you're not working on film or working your full-time job or whatever you're doing, like what is something that you need to like what, how do you decompress to just like escape for like a few hours or something?
Usually that's when I'll catch up on a TV show that I've been meaning to watch that I haven't watched yet. Matter of fact, just this weekend I just finished watching The Shield,
That's
which
a
I had.
good series.
Yeah, that's a fantastic series, which I had never seen until a couple months ago when I started binge watching it. Um, but yeah, I usually, if I'm when I'm in that mood where I don't want to edit, I don't want to edit a video or a movie or whatever. If I'm just overwhelmed by life in general, then that's when I will pull out something that I've been wanting to watch that I haven't watched. Um, and I'll start watching that just so that I can see what the hubbub was about for some of this stuff, and that really is what it. But the other thing sometimes I do is I just will just read a book, or look at some artwork, or do some generate some art. I know a lot of people are against AI art, and I understand that. But for me, it's I find it far more relaxing than playing Candy Crush or something along those lines. But that's usually my decompression. And I mean, I go have my day job, and then when I'm done with that, I come home and I spend time with my son, and so I get some natural decompression with that because he and I are talking. We're usually watching. Like during the week we'll watch a TV show. On Wednesdays we have movie night where we watch a movie we've never seen before, neither one of us. And Friday we have anime night where we watch an anime or multiple animes. So I have natural decompression built in on a daily basis. And then sometimes it's just I'll either watch a show or I'll just like, what, I mean, I've got this idea and it's bothering me. Like I just today, there's some things that I was originally setting out to do, but I wound up just doing a bunch of posters for Sexy Sorority Sisters of Death that because I just got this idea in my head and I wanted to try it and it worked out. And so I just did that and I just kind of had a good time doing that. And I cooked a roast and did some chores, it's just whatever, I'm at the point now where I can just, I have so many things that I do, so many things that I'm interested in that I'm never pressed to try to find something to do. Sometimes I stress myself out trying to figure out what I want to do that isn't movie related.
Yeah. Well, what do you like a lot of anime, or is it just something that your son likes to watch?
Oh no, I'm an anime fan from way back in the day.
I
Uh,
I, I have one anime now. I feel stupid recommending this because you've probably seen it, but Paranoia Agent.
oh, love Paranoia Agent.
It is one of my favorite animes. I love Satar. I love his work. Perfect Blue is my favorite film that he's done. I don't know if you watched that.
Yes, yeah, Perfect Blue is
And
definitely.
I love Erased. If you ever get a chance to watch Erased,
I don't know that one, but I will
it's
check.
a
I will go.
butterfly effect kind of anime. It goes back in time when he's a kid. It's actually really, really good.
I
I
will definitely check it out.
It's more of a thriller, crime-ish drama.
Right,
Parasite's a good one if you haven't seen Parasite.
I have. Yep.
Okay, you like Death Note.
Oh, and Death Note. My daughter was very much into Death Note. I'm more of a giant robot.
So like a
Or
Gundam.
yeah, I'm definitely more a giant robot kind of anime fan. But honestly, my anime taste run the range. From Gotcha Man to Agent Aeka to Gundam to Gal Gaigar to Demon Slayer. I mean, for me, it, I love a lot of anime.
For me, I
The,
can't have any filler. But I also don't watch anything that's over 52 episodes unless I've seen it before. I'm very picky.
well, nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. Like for me, I won't watch One Piece. I watched it when it first came out
Never watch it.
because
Won't watch it.
I was living in Japan. I got sick and tired of its formulaic, boring routine. The character of Usopp that was in it, always getting his ass beat, just frustrated the hell out of me. I watched a few. I watched like the first 12 or so episodes. Got sick of it. So I don't love
Yeah.
all anime, but I definitely love most.
Okay. So is that where your love for anime came when you were living in Japan, or was it always something you liked?
Oh, it's always something I liked. What my interest in it, not knowing what it was started back in the '70s with Battle of the Planets, and then the '80s with late '70s, early '80s with Star Blazers, Speed Racer. Um, those came out.
Ultraman.
I actually didn't see Ultraman until the late '80s.
Mm.
But then I moved to Japan, which had always been my dream since um, there was a show called Robotech, which was a combination of three different Japanese series that
My
they brought to
stepdad
America.
has the whole box set of that show. He loves that show.
Right, and Robotech was my gateway. That's what introduced me to the world of anime, not knowing that I had already been introduced to it with Speed Racer and Star Blazers and Battle of the Planets. But now I understood what it was, and I started just devouring all the information that I could. And then the '90s came, and the anime boom on VHS, and I still have all my VHS tapes
Uh huh.
from that time period. Um, I just that was there, and then I got to move to Japan, and then I discovered Tokusatsu, which Super Sentai, which we all call Power Rangers, which of course obviously I'd seen before I moved to Japan, but I actually learned about all the different shows that came before Zoo Ranger, which is what the original Power Rangers is based off. And then Ultraman came back after a long hiatus. Then Kamen Rider came back, and so and then I watched a lot of Japanese dramas. I had a show called Rewind. I did a couple of Japanese dramas on that. So my interest in Japan and Japanese pop culture. It's even extended out to music, and I collect laser discs and a whole bunch of stuff. So it's just one of those things, and certainly a lot of those things, including the fact that I used to write anime reviews, DVD reviews when during the early 2000 anime boom on DVD really was hitting hard. I used to run a website and I used to write those reviews, and so the wonderful thing about that is that ties into the movie making, which taught me about characterization and mood and tone and framing and things like that. So it's just all kind of just been this one big thing for ever since I was 7 years old, and it's just all culminated into what I'm doing now, which is Sexy Sorority Sisters of Death. And like I said, there's some Japanese live action movies influence ingrained in the DNA of this movie. So yeah, it's just and then I've gotten into some Korean and Chinese films and films from India. So I anytime that I can find something that piques my interest, that draws me in, that's what I'm going to do. And it doesn't matter what language it's in or what time period it's from. Um, if I'm interested, I'm gonna plop myself in front of the TV and watch it.
Yeah, I love film. I never have a preference on genre to watch, but I will not lie. One genre that I have to be immersely interested in a story at all is Western. For some reason, it is one of the only styles of film that I cannot get into unless the plot and story, or if it's got a good cast. That is it. And if it doesn't have anything that's gonna interest me, I won't watch it. It's just the only genre. I don't know why. It might be because I'm not a big fan of that style. I don't know, but it's the only thing that I have to get like force. I have to get fed into like hypnotized basically in the watch again.
Yeah, no, I'm not a big Western fan myself. I can't even remember the last Western that I actually watched. I think maybe it was it 9:15 or whatever it was called. But yeah, I mean, I like some of the more modernist ones, like The Quick and the Dead by Sam Raimi, Unforgiven. Of course, I loved when I was younger Silverado, Young Guns, and then of course my favorite Western probably of all time is Once Upon a Time in the West.
Oh, uh,
Really-
my favorite western. It's not even really a western, but it's based around it. It's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Right, right. But yeah, Once Upon a Time in the West. Henry Fonda plays the bad guy. Charles Bronson is badass. Great lines. Beautiful film. Um, yeah, that's probably. But yeah, I'm not big into westerns. My love has always been sci-fi. It will always be sci-fi. If I could afford to do sci-fi, I would do more sci-fi. But
Right. Oh,
it's
it's expensive as hell.
yeah, building the sets and the monsters and stuff. So
Yeah,
so I'll just keep it.
if I ever do a sci-fi film, it would be I would do something like Starship Troopers. Just if I was given an unlimited amount of money, I'd go back and I'd make Starship Troopers like I'd make it more realistic. But then again, they would avoid the campy factor, so I would probably not do that.
Right. Well, Starship Troopers is you know
Or I'd do
not to go
something like,
off on yet another tangent, but real quick.
yeah, go ahead, you're fine.
Uh, Heinlein's book was a very jingoist novel. It was very pro-military and all that. The anime, the Starship Troopers anime, and I'm talking about hand drawn anime, not the CG sequels that they created after the
Mm.
Paul Verhoeven's movie. The original anime kept very much closer to the original books. Um, but again, when Paul Verhoeven took it, just like he did with RoboCop, he wanted to look at the fascism and he wanted to look at militarism. So while it definitely was more campy and it skewed from some of the more militaristic roots that Heinlein had come up with. Paul Verhoeven, showgirls notwithstanding, that's a man who I respect quite a bit because the fact that he takes risks like he does, and I think that's part of what makes him such a interesting filmmaker. But yeah, I totally get. Starship Troopers had there's a lot of problems with it, but you're also right. If you redid it more along what Heinlein did, you would lose that kind of subversive camp factor that Verhoeven injected into it.
Yeah. So I have another question. This is from Tara. She wanted to know about Sexy Sorority Sisters of Death. She wanted to know if we're gonna get anything that is like. Obviously, we talked about how it had some witchy vibes and stuff like that. But she wanted to know if it was because obviously I now know it's not because of this. But she wanted to know if there's gonna be any elements of the Crucible or the Coven or any kind of or American Horror Story Coven or any kind of other witch hunty like elements in it.
Witch hunting, no, but there are some coven elements. There's some crucible things. There is, without giving too much away, it is very much rooted in that time period and of witches being persecuted. So a lot of what the sorority does now is based upon what happened to the sorority when it was founded. Before the sorority has been around since before America was America. So that's there is some tie into that. So while it's not necessarily in this one, although if I did a sequel, and that's a huge if,
Right.
uh, there would be more of a persecution vibe, but that would only make sense if you actually get to see the movie. And obviously, if we don't make the first one, we're definitely not going to be making the second one.
Right. It's like, oh hey, back. We didn't make the first one, but back our sequel just because we're trying to make it anyway.
Yeah, no,
that'd
that's
be
not happening.
that'd be
If
funny. That'd be fun. That'd
if
be a lot of fun.
yeah, if Sexy Sorority Sisters of Death does not get the funding it needs, then
what
we're going to kind of go a different direction.
what is our budget that we are looking to get for this? I don't see it on Indiegogo because at the time of this recording, it just says email me to keep me updated.
Right. I haven't launched the campaign yet.
Complete. Okay, not completely.
Yeah, it's this is just the early sign up. I'm just trying to build the buzz right now and try to get people interested so that when we do launch, we actually get the support we need because eh,
It's a
it's going to
massive
cost
project.
it's going to cost at least $200,000.
This is a big one. This is a big. Is this gonna be your biggest film with the big? Is this the biggest budget?
Yes, absolutely. And the reason for that, which will be when we launch the funding campaign, we actually will post the copy of the pitch deck that shows everything and where it's going to. We're going to be very transparent about what
Like where
we're
your
going to
money's
be eating for
going?
it, where all of it, and we have. as you've seen, if you go to our Instagram and our page and all that, we have announced,
Handful of people.
well, we still have more people that we haven't announced, but there's still, if you look at it just by breaking it down, there's 13 sorority sisters and 13 pledges. So that's 26 actors right there. Plus the character of Lilith, which we haven't announced her yet, but we'll be announcing her soon. Plus a couple of other characters that we'll be announcing. Um, and so you're looking at least 30 people, 30 actors. At least half of them are going to be in the movie from beginning to end,
Mm.
and the rest will happen to them whatever happens to them. um but at least 12 will be, well, six pledges and six sorority sisters that are kind of the core of the story. They're going to be in just about every single excuse me, all the way through the movie. Then you got to hire the cameraman, and we're looking at 21 days, 20 to 21 days filming. So we also have to house everybody, and we have to feed everybody, and we have to provide transportation. And we also will have to pay for special effects. There's going to be a lot of special effects. We're going practical. We're very little VFX is going to be done. It's all mostly going to be practical. And of course, we have to hire the right crew, and we have to cover distribution, deliverables, editing, color grading, all sound, hiring, good sound guy, all of that stuff. So,
Composer.
yeah, composer too. And so, we could do it at 150, but that's no margin for error. If something goes wrong, we're screwed.
Right, because
Uh,
even like the slightest fuck up, sorry,
right,
excuse my language, can set like I've seen it. I've worked on film shoots with students. Not necessarily students, but like my colleagues. They had a budget and they had location. They were filming. They were filming at a cemetery. Cemetery gave them permission, but their boom mic guy was running late. That offset the time schedule. That literally one slight hiccup, not necessarily a blooper. Like if they flub a line, you can always work with something like that where they can try and backtail it. That's fine, but anything like technical or that can really set everything back by a landslide.
exactly. So, even with the limited locations, we really only have three key locations that we need.
Yeah.
Um, Even with that, even with the story and the practical and all that, I mean, $200,000. That gives us some leeway, but we probably at least probably 250,000 to 300,000. And again, it goes to pretty much all of it goes to everybody involved, all the from the director all the way down to the key grip,
Yeah.
and for 20-day filming schedule, and then all the post production work after that. And we are not compromising on this one. I most of my films, I never get the budget that I need, so I have to often compromise or change things. Sometimes even on the day, because I just don't have the money to be able to pay everybody what they are owed. So I have to make allowances. I have to make changes. Like for Quattro, originally Quattro was supposed to be like 8 days. We got it done in 4
Oh.
because we didn't have the budget. We didn't get all the money that we needed. So I made sure that my cast and my crew got paid and they got fed.
Yeah.
Um, and so that was from that, and from all the stuff that I've been doing for the last 6, almost 7 years now. I've decided I'm no longer going to skimp. And that's why it's an all or nothing. We either going to get the budget we need to get it done and to do it right and to make the best film that we
Yeah.
can make, or we're just not going to waste my time and all these wonderful actors' time and the people who supported it for a film that may never get done because we only got $50,000. Well, we're not going to be able to make this movie on $50,000. There's just no way.
Right.
It's impossible. Not unless we do it like, we cut out 90% of the cast and only do, like, 5 days of filming. We're not compromising. No compromises. That is, and you can actually take pleasure in the fact that this is the first time that this new policy for Key 13 Films has officially been announced. No compromises. We either do it the way we want to do it, or we're not doing it. We're not wasting everybody's time. And maybe that means I won't be making another film for the next 5 years. I don't care. I'm not going to compromise anymore. I've done it too much,
Right.
too many times. It leaves a bad taste in my mouth. Not going to do it anymore. So there
Yeah.
you go. There's your exclusive.
I've
Our
come.
new policy.
And another thing, people, if this does not, if well, I'm not saying if it, obviously, if it doesn't all or nothing, people that don't know Indiegogo or Kickstarters, if it's an all or nothing, if you donate and if it doesn't reach the goal, you don't get charged.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
just putting that out there for you that are listening that don't know what all or nothing meant. There you go. Because I know not everyone is the deck that not can comprehend everything. So just throwing it out there. Hopeful. I'm very excited to see. I know for a fact I'm interested in this movie. You've been announcing some people. I've seen some of the people that have been announced. I'm like, I've seen that person somewhere on, and yeah, Julie, who you announced I think last week ish.
Yeah, Billy Seidel. Yes.
Yeah, I've seen her in a couple YouTube like small little short things here and there. So I was like, I know who that is. I recognize her, but where do I recognize her from? And boom, oh yeah, she was in a YouTube thing I saw. Okay, yeah, I know who that is. It's so
Yeah.
crazy.
No,
Small world.
yeah, it is. It is.
You never realize how small it is. What is?
Very.
Now obviously we got this. I'm really interested after you said like Jennifer's Body. Like I don't hear a lot of people talk about that film, and it's really sad because I also don't like the studio for letting them mismarket that movie, at all. I think that's a little bit. That was a little bit awful how they. But I also get it because I don't think if they marketed it the way that it should have been marketed, it probably wouldn't have sold any tickets because when you look at it, they marketed the sex appeal of Megan Fox.
Right. Right.
But
And
if you
that's not really what the movie was about. And it wasn't
no,
about her making out with
and
Amanda.
they use that, and it's just like I get it, and I don't
Yeah,
fault them on selling the movie, but it's not what the movie's about.
no, it's not. And the fact that Diablo Cody had written Juno, and
Yeah,
they didn't interfere with that. So, you know, part of the reason why I'm glad I'm not part of any kind of, I'm not union, and I'm not obviously on my own studio. So the only rules, or, you know, how it goes is my decision. Um, often there's a lot of really great movies that just get mismarketed because the studio, the people who are in it, they're looking at it from a business perspective,
yep, and not
and
necessarily
they're
the
not
plot.
they're not looking at it from an artistic perspective. And you know, it is a business. Let's be clear here. Movie making is a business. Yes, you can do it for yourself. Yes, you can do it with your friends. Yes, you can do it on no budget and release it and people will see it. But there is there is a business behind it. But the people who run that business need to understand the movies that they are selling, the movies they are making, the movies they are funding. And if they don't, then that's when you get things mismanaged or mismarketed movies. Um, you know, where they focus on one thing when it's really not the thing they should be focusing on. And that's just the and sometimes and I know from personal experience, I made what I thought was the right call as far as from a marketing standpoint, and it turned out to be not the right call. And then there were times where I knew I made the right call. I got convinced that it was the wrong call, and because of that, I kind of felt like I had capitulated because people were afraid of the subject matter or something. So, part of that no compromise viewpoint is also in the types of films that I make. Um, I've mentioned this before that I got for some reason I seem to get called out every time I have just the slightest amount of sex or nudity in one of my films. And I get called, people call Anna Key softcore porn. It's not. There's the sex scene in there, nothing is shown, and of the two or three that are in there, they last maybe 30 seconds. So obviously the people are hating on it not because of the content, but because of the film or me or whatever. And that's that I don't. So I part of the reason why I'm not compromising anymore is I'm sick and tired of worrying about whether or not I do something. Somebody's going to come at me and say, "Oh, well, you're making porn, or you're exploiting women, or you're not, respecting people." Blah 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 blah. I was just like, look. I try to make sure I do the best thing and represent everybody as best I can and tell an interesting story. Um, and, you know, you got to be open and in front what your story is going to be. And I've been very clear on Sexy Sorority Sisters of Death, and the studio should have been very clear on Jennifer's body, and they should have paid attention and understood what they were doing instead of going for, oh, Megan Fox is in it, she's hot, let's talk that up. You know, yeah, Megan Fox is hot, but that's not what made the movie so good. Not her hotness. It's just like with Jennifer Lawrence. You don't watch a movie because Jennifer Lawrence is hot. You watch a movie because she's going to give you an interesting performance, and that's something that I really feel that we need to really,
Yeah.
not only movie viewers but people who make the movies really need to look at that is, you gotta tell the stories. The story should always be the priority, and then you got to be open and upfront what your story is going to be, because people can smell horse shit from a mile away,
Yeah.
and
You,
they know when you don't know what you're doing or what you're talking about.
you want to know what sold me on Jennifer's body?
What?
I love Adam Brody. I think Adam Brody's a really, really good actor. And I was really excited to see what he was going to do because I love the OC. I watched that when it was on. I love that show.
That was definitely not one of my shows. But I watched it because of Diablo Cody. Um,
I didn't know writing. See, I didn't really know any. I was still when that came out. I had just hit ninth grade in high school, so like I was still learning. Like I knew about directors more than I did writers.
right.
So when I took a screenwriting class, my when I took more of a creative writing class, but I wrote my first screenplay as an assignment, and I had even my teacher say, "You should make this." I said, "Yeah, it's too expensive." And then when I go to make it, I'm like, "No, I just wrote it at a very dark point in my life. I'm not making this."
Yeah, yeah. I've got a couple films like that.
Yeah,
So yeah, I completely, I completely agree with you on that one. And for me, uh, as I I at first my criteria was, is it a genre that I was interested in? But now that I've been watching and making my own stuff, I then sometimes I really have to work hard at not doing this. But I dissect the movie, the writing, the characterization, the camera work, and all that stuff because one thing that I firmly believe in is you got to learn, you got to get better. One thing I learned in photography, you're only as good as your last photo shoot.
Yeah.
And if you don't keep, you can find your niche and you can develop that niche and you can become the master at it. But once in a while, you gotta go, you gotta learn, you gotta try something new, and you gotta keep moving forward. And I have to, and because of that, that's why with Key 13 and our Cinephoto line, that's what I've done, and that's what I'll continue to do. Is if I get something done, I'm going to do it, learn it, get it to the point where I can do it consistently. Now it's time for me to learn something new and do that until I can do it consistently, and then so on and so on and so forth. And that's makes me a lot happier, and it kind of carries me through the long days when I'm sitting there busting my tail trying to get a movie done, and I'm just like seeing this insurmountable task, and I'm like, oh my god, I don't want to deal with this right now, but I want to get it done because I want to see how it comes out, because I want to put it together, and I want to see if I have taken what I have learned and have applied it appropriately. And the way that I'm doing the announcements with Sexy Sorority Sisters of Death and the Instagram page and the posters and stuff is all stuff that I've learned for the last 6 years of failing miserably at the social media aspect of things. And so I'm learning and I'm applying what I've learned, and I think that's part of what makes me. I don't know if I'm not. I don't know if I'm not better than anybody. That's for sure. There are people. There's a million people way better at me at all of this than I could ever hope to be. But it for me, for my personal growth and satisfaction, because I'm constantly pushing myself, trying to learn from my mistakes and apply what I've learned and make things better and do it better. Um, it has given me that sense of fulfillment. And even during the times where I'm just like overwhelmed, I know that I can still keep going because I know where the goal is. I know where the end is. I can see it. I'm going to get there, and I'm going to do it the right way without any compromises. So, or as compromise as little as I can, because you can't go through life without some amount of compromise, unfortunately. But you know, you do your best, and that's what I always do. And you learn from your mistakes, and if you can do that, you're going to win at just about anything you do.
Yeah. All right. Well, before I let you go here, where can people find you at? Like on social media? I know you said your social media game is not always that great, but where can people find you at? I'm gonna link the Indiegogo page in the description of this. But where else can people find you?
Well, the easiest way to find everything is www.key13film.com. There's not films. If you do, it'll just drive you to a dead link. Key13film.com. It has links to all our social medias. I've not created the official page for Sexy Sorority Sisters of Death yet. That's on the list of things to do. But if you are more interested in Sexy Sorority Sisters of Death than, say, the entire collection of Key 13 or Cinephoto films, both of which have Facebook pages, and K13 Films on Instagram. That's for the Key 13 page. Cinephoto does not have one. It's just one of those things that I decided not to do. But the Sexy Sorority Sisters of Death, Instagram. If you just type that in, trust me, we're the only game out there. You'll also find our TikTok, and you'll find our Facebook page. So we are the only Sexy Sorority Sisters of Death. SSSOD is our shorthand for that. You can find us just doing a search engine or finding Key 13 or find my Facebook profile, Matt L. Anderson on Facebook. I pretty much, all my posts are set to public. So if you want to know everything that I've got going on, you'll see it there too. So visit our website, www.key13film.com, and that is pretty much links to everything that I just listed, including our YouTube channel.
Okay, well, I want to thank you again, Matt, for coming on. Thank you again. Everybody, please keep your eyes peeled on everything Key 13 and, of course, Sexy Sorority Sisters of Death, since that is what this podcast was mainly about until I realized that there's a lot more to it than that. So this interview went a little bit longer, but hey, it's still cool. You should just keep an eye out on everything. And Matt, I'll make sure you get a copy of this. If there's anything you want me to remove, just message me and we'll go from there.
No, I have nothing to do it. Again, no compromises here, my friend. You post it, and I will share it. And appreciate you letting me be on the show and let me speak my piece and speak my mind and talk to you about all sorts of aspects of film. It was a lot of fun. I hope we can do it again.
Yes, for sure. I definitely gotta have you come back on, even if it's before everything. I would love to have you back on because there's other questions I had, but unfortunately, I have to get to sleep. I have a big early day tomorrow, so it's just been. Maybe we'll do a part two.
Absolutely.
All right, I'll keep you updated on that, and I'll talk to you in a little bit.
All right.